Meghan's favorite ice cream sundae. That is the phrase sitting at the center of As Ever's newest summer post, and once you actually read it out loud, the whole problem with this brand snaps into focus. Here is the exact setup. The verified As Ever Instagram account, the one that publicly says it is by Meghan and describes itself as a curated collection, established in 2025, published a short-form reel with a caption that opens, "Adding this to our summer menu." What follows is the description of Meghan's favorite ice cream sundae, built with raspberry spread, vanilla ice cream, crumbled shortbread, and flour sprinkles. That is the entire public receipt. No price, no stock alert, no seasonal launch date, no shopping instruction. Just a founder's personal dessert preference, dressed up in soft summer lighting. Read the caption again and notice where the emphasis lands. The products are named, sure. Raspberry spread is in there, flour sprinkles are in there, but the headline of the whole thing is not what those products do, or why anyone should want them. The headline is Meghan, her taste, her favorite, her mood. The three branded food components are technically present, and yet they are cast in supporting roles inside a scene that is really about one person's curated summer. The issue is not the sundae. The issue is that As Ever chose to make Meghan's favorite the headline while the products are left doing background duty. That is the creative choice that exposes the brand's real weakness. It still knows how to stage Meghan better than it knows how to sell As Ever. The comment setting tells us nothing useful about public reaction. We do not need it. The brand's own caption already shows us the hierarchy it chose. Meghan first, merchandise second. So this is not a story about an ice cream recipe. It is a story about a company that keeps positioning its founder as the main attraction, while the products she supposedly sells are asked to stand politely in the background. The sundae is charming. That is not in dispute. The question that this charming little clip accidentally raises is much sharper. After you finish watching, what do you actually remember? The raspberry spread, or the woman whose favorite dessert it happens to be? That gap between the product and the personality is where this entire episode lives. And the newest reel did not create that gap, it just put a spotlight on it. Here is where a lot of quick takes go wrong, so let's not make that mistake. You could watch this reel, roll your eyes and dismiss it as some influencer throwing sprinkles on ice cream. That reading is lazy, and it misses the far more interesting truth. These are real products, named products, priced products, and that reality is precisely what makes the ad more revealing, not less. Pull up the official As Ever store, and the picture sharpens fast. Raspberry spread is a genuine retail item, listed at $12 for the standard product. Flour sprinkles is a genuine retail item too, listed at $15. The company's own product page describes those flour sprinkles as edible flower petals meant for plating, an addition designed to change the look of a dish. The store even connects the flour sprinkles directly to shortbread cookies in its imagery and copy. So when the reel names raspberry spread, crumbled shortbread, and flour sprinkles, that is not a coincidence. Those are cataloged products from a defined collection, stitched together into one polished serving suggestion. Get the small details right, because accuracy is what lets the criticism land. The brand calls it raspberry spread, not jam, not sauce, not preserve. The flour sprinkles are edible petals, not some inedible decoration. Naming these correctly matters because it proves we are examining the actual product message rather than inventing a cheap joke. And once you accept that these are real items, the central contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. A real collection, one that a company wants people to buy, should make you want the item. The reel should leave you thinking about the taste of that raspberry, the texture of that shortbread, the reason those petals turn an ordinary dish into something you would pay $15 to recreate. Instead, the clip leaves you staring at Meghan's curated dessert world, and then quietly scrambling to remember what she was supposed to be selling. Look at what the flour sprinkles product literally is. The brand's own description frames it as a finishing flourish, a decorative touch that changes how a plate looks. Sit with that for a second, because it works as an almost too perfect metaphor for the whole post. This reel treats the entire commercial proposition as a flourish, a pretty garnish arranged around a celebrity scene. The products become the sprinkles. Meghan becomes the sundae. That metaphor is not a stretch. It is the logical consequence of the creative hierarchy the brand chose. The product description says the flour sprinkles exist to change the look of a dish. The post uses the products to change the look of a founder moment. The function is the same. The subject has simply shifted from the food to the person. And when the subject of a product ad is the founder rather than the product, the brand has a storytelling problem, whether it intends to or not. Lifestyle imagery is not the problem. A retail brand can sell a mood, but the mood still has to serve the merchandise. Here, the merchandise serves the mood. Every branded ingredient is named, yet the viewer is given almost no reason to want any one of them beyond the fact that Meghan placed it in her favorite dessert. That is not product storytelling. It is personality-led set dressing. And this is not an isolated question raised by one ice cream clip. The newest reel is simply the clearest example of a pattern that has been visible for weeks. Back up to late July. Marie Claire reported on an earlier As Ever teaser that showed Meghan walking through raspberry fields. The publication described her in a straw hat and a pale blue shirt, searching through the bushes for ripe fruit. The outlet also reproduced the brand's own teaser message, and the wording tells you everything. A taste of late summer is almost here. Something sweet is arriving soon. That is not hostile paraphrasing from a critic. That is the brand's official language, quoted by an independent magazine. Now line the two moments up. First, the styled field, the harvest imagery, the promise of something sweet. Then, days later, the finished dessert labeled as Meghan's favorite sundae. Watch the sequence as a whole, and the shape becomes unmistakable. Every step sells a Meghan mood. The fruit picking sells a mood, the straw hat sells a mood, the seasonal promise sells a mood, and the food, the actual thing you would open a wallet for, mostly decorates that mood. The brand's own teaser language is worth dwelling on for a moment, because a taste of late summer is almost here, and something sweet is arriving soon, are doing something very specific. They are building anticipation around a feeling, a season, a sensory promise. They are not building anticipation around a product specification, a flavor profile, a use case, or a price point. The emotional architecture of the campaign, if you can call the public sequence that, is designed to make you feel something about the world as ever inhabits. The product is the reward at the end of that feeling. But when the reward arrives and it is still framed as Meghan's personal favorite, rather than a standalone reason to buy, the feeling has done all the work and the product has done almost none. The sources support a visible pattern of presentation, not a secret campaign document. Nobody handed us an internal brief. We cannot say the brand plotted these two posts as one calculated strategy, and we are not going to. What we can say is that the public-facing sequence, the part anyone can scroll and see, now tells a very consistent story. The field teaser and the sundae reel are two panels of the same picture. The public sequence has a polished, founder-centered aesthetic, raspberry fields, soft styling, seasonal language, flowers, and Meghan's personal seal of approval. It is carefully assembled. But polish is not product clarity. As Ever keeps making atmosphere the main event and treating the actual item as a prop inside Meghan's world. The vibe is doing the selling because the product message is barely being asked to. That is why the sundae reel matters. Pick the fruit, promise something sweet, serve the dessert, stamp it with the founder's name. At every stage, Meghan remains the headline while the product waits for a role. That is what makes calling this an accidental exposure feel earned rather than cheap. The brand did not confess anything. It just repeated its own habit one more time, in higher definition than usual. Here is the part that raises the stakes, and it is the reason a glossy little dessert clip matters more now than it would have a year ago. In March 2026, The Wrap reported that As Ever's direct commercial partnership with Netflix had ended after its first year, while the Sussex's broader first-look relationship with Netflix continued separately. According to that reporting, both sides framed the change in public statements. Meghan's spokesperson said the brand was grateful for the partnership through launch in its first year, had experienced meaningful and rapid growth, and was ready to continue independently. Netflix said it was glad to have played a role in bringing the brand to life, and that Meghan would take it into its next chapter on her own. Let's be precise about what that reporting does and does not establish, because this is exactly where a weaker script would overreach. The Wrap's account does not say Netflix walked away because of weak numbers. It does not say the brand was abandoned, unprofitable, or in danger. It does not hand us sales figures, profit margins, or any internal assessment. So we are not going to invent a financial crisis, a betrayal, or a hidden confrontation. None of that is in the record, and pretending otherwise would just make the whole story brittle. What the reporting does tell us is genuinely useful. The commercial brand partnership ended after its launch year, and the public message is that As Ever now goes forward independently. That is an observable before and after, and here is why it changes the weight of a single social post. When a lifestyle brand launches inside the world of a Netflix production, the show carries part of the introduction. The series creates the context. The founder's spotlight comes partly borrowed. But once the brand steps into its own independent chapter, the everyday marketing has to carry that identity by itself. That makes the newest reel more revealing, not less, as Ever is now supposed to stand independently, which means ordinary posts have to establish why the product matters, without a larger media machine carrying the context. Instead, this reel still behaves as though Meghan's image is enough to do the heavy lifting. The personality opens the door, occupies the room, and leaves the product trying to explain why it was invited. Elle's public explainer fills in the background here, and it is worth pulling in. According to Elle, Meghan announced As Ever in an Instagram video in February 2025, describing it as something she had created and poured her heart into. The initial line arrived around the premiere of With Love, Meghan, and it included food and lifestyle items, crepe mix, shortbread cookie mix with flour sprinkles, herbal teas, wildflower honey, and raspberry spread. So the food identity is not new, and the raspberry is not a sudden pivot. These items have lived inside a personality and lifestyle story from day one. That history is the indictment. From the beginning, As Ever has sold food, gardening, entertaining, and Meghan's idealized domestic world as one package. The problem is that the package has never learned to separate the product from the founder's image. The latest reel takes that founding formula to its most obvious extreme. The customer is not being asked to judge the spread, the shortbread, or the sprinkles on their own merits. They are being invited into Meghan's summer scene and expected to treat the products as souvenirs from it. That is why this latest post matters. It does not solve the question of what makes As Ever distinctive as a retail brand. It buries that question beneath another carefully arranged Meghan moment. So here is the honest question the independent chapter forces. Meghan can clearly build a beautiful scene. That was never in doubt. The real test is whether the brand has learned to make the product matter once the spectacle around it fades. And a founder-first, product-second reel does not answer that question. It dodges it. So when we say Meghan is in trouble, and this video exposed As Ever's biggest problem, we mean the brand's public messaging is in trouble. No fake financial crisis story is needed. As Ever has real products, real prices, and a real storefront. Yet its own marketing repeatedly makes those products look like accessories in Meghan's lifestyle performance. The jar is a prop. The flower petals are set dressing. Meghan is the product the audience is actually being asked to remember. That is the problem. A serious consumer brand has to give people a reason to remember the item. What makes it different, why it is worth choosing, why it belongs in their kitchen. This reel gives viewers a celebrity cue and a glossy dessert tableau, then hopes that Meghan's image will close the commercial gap. The latest video accidentally says the quiet part out loud. This is still Meghan selling Meghan, with jars and sprinkles brought along for the ride. And no, the dessert use itself is not the issue. As Ever has previously promoted food serving ideas, including uses with ice cream. That only makes the real problem clearer. A raspberry sundae could have sold the spread, the flavor, the texture, the use, the reason this jar beats an ordinary alternative. Instead, the caption sells Meghan's favorite dessert. The product knowledge stays thin while the founder's image does all the work. That is the GR verdict. As Ever is not struggling because it put jam on ice cream. It is struggling because every product moment keeps becoming another Meghan moment before it ever becomes a reason to buy. The next late summer reveal will show whether As Ever has learned anything. It can put the item first, explain the flavor, show the use, make the product memorable, and let the lifestyle imagery support the sale. Or it can deliver another soft-focus Meghan scene with the merchandise arranged politely around the edges. Another founder moment the audience remembers first, and another product left fighting to establish an identity of its own. The official teaser promised that something sweet is arriving soon. Fine, but the real test is no longer whether As Ever can create a beautiful world around Meghan. It plainly can. The test is whether it can ever make the product more memorable than the woman presenting it. Meghan's favorite ice cream sundae is the accidental summary of the whole problem. The post tells viewers what Meghan loves. It barely tells them why they should love As Ever. And until that changes, the brand will keep looking less like a serious retail operation and more like Meghan's lifestyle scrapbook with a checkout page attached.